What most people don't understand about healing as an empath is that it doesn't begin with adding something. It begins with releasing, not releasing in a dramatic ceremonial sense, not a single act of letting go followed by immediate peace, but a quiet, often uncomfortable process of identifying what has been silently draining your system and choosing, consciously, to stop feeding it. Because here's what most healing advice misses. Empaths don't struggle because they feel too much. They struggle because they hold too much, and what they hold isn't always pain. Sometimes it's responsibility that was never theirs. Sometimes it's hope that stopped being rational a long time ago. And sometimes it's a version of themselves that no longer serves who they are becoming. So if you've reached the point where emotional exhaustion is no longer occasional, but structural, where you feel heavy not because of one situation, but because of an accumulation you can't quite name, then the question is not, what do you need to learn? The question is, what do you need to release? The first thing is the need to be understood by everyone. This is one of the deepest patterns an empath carries, and one of the most quietly destructive. Because empaths operate at a level of emotional depth that most people don't naturally access, there is an instinctive desire to be met at that depth. When they express something, they don't just want acknowledgement, they want comprehension. They want the other person to feel what they felt when they said it. And when that doesn't happen, something subtle begins. Not anger, not resentment, but repetition. They explain again, they rephrase. They offer more context. They soften their language to make it easier to receive. And what starts as communication slowly becomes performance. They are no longer expressing themselves. They are translating themselves. And translation is exhausting when it never produces fluency in the other person. Releasing this does not mean becoming silent. It means accepting that emotional clarity is not owed to you by everyone. Some people will never understand you, not because you failed to explain, but because understanding requires a depth they are not willing to reach. And once you stop requiring that from every connection, your energy returns, not because the world changed, but because you stopped spending yourself trying to make it see you. The second thing is the belief that your value comes from what you give. This one is deeply embedded. Most empaths were conditioned early, either through family dynamics, social environments, or emotional survival, to associate their worth with their usefulness. They became the listener, the fixer, the emotional stabilizer, and over time giving became identity, not a choice but a reflex. The problem is not generosity. The problem is that when giving becomes the primary measure of self-worth, receiving feels foreign. Compliments are deflected. Rest feels unearned. And the idea of existing without producing emotional value for someone else creates a quiet anxiety that most empaths never name out loud. Releasing this means confronting an uncomfortable truth. You are not valuable because you give. You are valuable because you exist. And the moment your presence requires labor to be justified, you are no longer in a relationship. You are in a transaction with yourself. Healing begins when you allow yourself to be still, to contribute nothing, and to notice that your worth does not diminish in the silence. The third thing is the pattern of anticipating other people's emotions. Empaths don't just respond to emotional environments, they forecast them. They walk into a room and immediately begin scanning for tension, discomfort, unspoken frustration. They adjust their tone before anyone has said a word. They soften before conflict has even formed. And while this might look like emotional intelligence, it is often something else entirely. It is hypervigilance disguised as empathy. Because when you are constantly anticipating what others feel, you are not fully present. You are ahead of the moment, managing outcomes that haven't occurred yet. Your nervous system is running predictions instead of processing reality. And that creates a kind of emotional fatigue that doesn't come from what happened. It comes from what you thought might happen. Releasing this does not mean becoming emotionally unaware. It means allowing moments to unfold without pre-managing them. It means letting other people feel what they feel without making it your responsibility to soften it before it even reaches the surface. And that release alone can restore an extraordinary amount of internal peace. The fourth thing is loyalty to people who have already left the relationship emotionally. This is perhaps the most painful thing an empath holds on to. Not people who left physically. That is visible, that can be grieved. But people who are still present in form, while being completely absent in substance. The ones who respond but don't engage. The ones who stay but don't invest. The ones whose presence creates more confusion than connection. And the empath stays loyal. Not because the relationship is working, but because they remember when it did. Or worse, because they remember what it almost was. They hold on to potential like a promissory note. And that loyalty, however noble it feels, is not connection. It is emotional archaeology. They are no longer relating to the person in front of them. They are relating to a version that no longer exists. Releasing this means grieving someone while they are still standing in front of you. It means acknowledging that presence without emotional participation is not a relationship. It is proximity. And proximity without reciprocity is not worth the cost of your peace. The fifth thing is the identity built around emotional endurance. This is the deepest release. Because many empaths have unconsciously built their entire self-concept around how much they can carry. They take pride in being the one who doesn't break. They measure their strength by their capacity to absorb difficulty without complaint. And while that resilience is real, the identity attached to it becomes a trap. Because when your identity depends on endurance, you cannot rest without feeling like you are failing. You cannot set limits without feeling like you are becoming less. You cannot prioritize yourself without a deep, irrational sense that you are abandoning your purpose. Releasing this means redefining strength entirely. It means understanding that strength is not the ability to hold everything. It is the ability to discern what is worth holding at all. It means recognizing that the version of you that survived by enduring was necessary then. But it is not the version of you that will heal now. Healing does not ask you to be stronger. It asks you to be honest. Honest about what you've been carrying. Honest about why you carried it, and honest about the fact that some of it was never yours. So when people say empaths need to heal, what they often fail to understand is that empaths don't need to become something different. They need to stop being everything for everyone. They need to release the patterns that kept them safe, but kept them exhausted. They need to stop performing depth for people who only engage with surfaces. And most importantly, they need to learn that letting go is not loss. It is alignment. Because the empath who releases what no longer serves them does not become less. They become clear. And clarity, once it takes root, does not fade. It restructures everything. Not louder, not harder, but with a precision that no longer tolerates what it once absorbed in silence.